Welcome to my walk, where I'll explore the fascinating topics of consciousness today. We often think of consciousness as a mysterious, almost magical quality that makes us human, but what if it's not as mystical as it seems? Philosopher Daniel Dennett, in his books Consciousness Explained and From Bacteria to Bach and Back, suggests that consciousness is not some ethereal force, but the result of evolution. It's built from simpler processes that have developed over time in both our brains and societies. Let's break down Dennett's ideas, starting with a basic understanding and gradually diving into his most thought provoking concepts like competence without comprehension, skyhooks, and cranes. Dennett argues that consciousness, while unique in humans in many ways, is the product of natural evolutionary processes. To start understanding Dennett's approach to consciousness, let's talk about the difference between competence and comprehension. Dennett uses the example of elevators. An elevator is competent, it can respond to buttons, move people between floors, and follow a set of rules, but it doesn't comprehend what it's doing. It doesn't understand its tasks. It just follows a program. Similarly, many processes in our brain are competent without any comprehension. Evolution has produced these highly competent processes in animals and humans that don't necessarily involve consciousness and understanding. For example, think about breathing or walking. We do these things automatically, competently, but without the need to consciously think about them every second. These automatic functions evolve because they help us survive and they don't require deep comprehension to work well. Consciousness, according to Dennett, is built on these competent systems, but it is not itself some magic comprehension of everything we do. Consciousness, for Dennett, is something that has evolved and is not unique to humans in its most basic forms. Simple organisms like bacteria exhibit basic competence without any kind of comprehension. They respond to their environment and adapt to survive. But as brains evolved and became more complex, certain animals, including humans, developed layers of cognitive processes that led to something more sophisticated: self awareness, problem solving, and eventually language. This evolutionary process didn't require some divine intervention or skyhook, an impossible or magical solution. Instead, it relied on cranes or natural mechanical processes that built upon one another step by step. For instance, animals like chimpanzees have rudimentary forms of consciousness, though they don't reflect on their thoughts the way humans do. The human brain, shaped by evolution, has added extra layers that allow us to use language, create art, and share complex ideas, leading to our unique form of consciousness. Dennett argues that consciousness is not just about biology, it's also shaped by culture. One of his key concepts is the idea of memes, units of culture like ideas, beliefs, or behaviors that replicate and evolve much like genes do. Just as evolution has shaped the biological structure of our brains, memes have shaped the way we think and communicate. For example, language itself is a powerful meme that has transformed human consciousness. Once early humans began to use language, it allowed them to share experiences, learn from one another, and build societies. These shared cultural elements evolve, influencing the way individuals think and behave. Memes play a significant role in shaping our self awareness and how we process the world around us. Our consciousness is not just a product of evolution, but also of the social and cultural environment we're immersed in. Now let's dive deeper into one of Dennett's most famous ideas: the distinction between skyhooks and cranes. Skyhooks represent magical or supernatural explanations for complex phenomena, like the belief that human consciousness must have a divine origin. Cranes, on the other hand, are natural step by step processes that gradually build complex structure structures from simpler ones. Dennett argues that we don't need skyhooks to explain consciousness. We can understand it as a result of Crane's natural evolutionary processes. Just like life itself evolved from simple single-celled organisms into the complex beings we are today, consciousness evolved from simple mental processes into the rich inner experience we now have. No magical leap was needed, just gradual, natural development. Not everyone agrees with Dennett's ideas, and he addresses many of the challenges head on. Some critics argue that his explanation of consciousness is too mechanistic, reducing it to nothing more than brain functions and social influences. They may say that consciousness feels too rich, too profound to be explained by mere biology and culture. But Dennett counters by reminding us that just because something feels magical or profound doesn't mean it is. Our brains are incredibly good at making sense of the world in ways that don't always reflect reality. He gives the example of optical illusions. Our minds can be tricked into seeing things that aren't there, and this shows that our perception isn't always reliable. Consciousness, in his view, is another example of a process that feels richer than it truly is. It's the result of countless small evolutionary steps, not an unexplainable leap. In conclusion, let's return to the core of Dennett's argument. Consciousness, while complex and unique to humans, is in its higher forms is not magical or mystical phenomena. It's the product of evolutionary processes, both biological and cultural. Our brains, through the millions of years of evolution, have developed layers of competences, many of which operate without comprehension, and our societies have added memes that shape the way we think and experience the world. Dennett's ideas encourage us to see consciousness not as a mystery, but as something understandable through science and reason. By recognizing that our minds are the product of cranes, not skyhooks, we can better appreciate the complexity of consciousness and the natural processes that brought it into being. Basically, the brain and the mind is the same thing, an extraordinarily evolved organ of the body. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the woods and into the mind. Thank you for joining me on my walk and deliberations. Cheers, Larry.